Well, since I was mentioned, I didn't propose a tax freeze. I proposed let's examine our development fees and our site plan costs and see if we can impose some sort of freeze on those. But there was no mention of a tax freeze. I mean, there is not a proposed tax freeze currently. There is a 4.9% increase that we will be dealing with later, but it was definitely not a tax freeze.
I didn't mention the tax freeze. I mentioned the development charge.
My God. As the only candidate who owns several businesses in this ward, continuously being successful, it's not impossible. The negativity that you hear is just that. What needs to be done is to work a little better. We talk about North Bay. Ironically, the young man that runs North Bay was trained by Jerry in my businesses. I couldn't help but say that. And he used some of our plants. And that's how it works well. So it does work well. Yes, the belt is too high. I hear somebody who's going to do this, he's going to do that. It takes the majority at council. You need someone who can actually communicate with people to do it. That's all I have to say, ladies and gentlemen, on that.
Thank you. Thank you much for your comments, and that makes it better. I like that. This is good. This is good. Everyone. Jesse, this is for you. You can start this time. Based on the services that are currently provided, what are the strategies you would implement to increase the value of our tax dollar? And the second time reading. So based on the services that are currently provided, what are the strategies you would implement to increase the value of our tax dollar? Jesse.
Thank you very much. Basically, we're seeing, declining services, taxes going up. Next year they're going up by projected 4.9%. Clearly, we need to do something to increase the efficiency of our tax dollar, especially when we see, mismanagement scandals at city council. One of the things I'd like to see is through the office of the integrity commissioner, a councilor's code of conduct. So, based on three key things: accountability, transparency, and responsible spending. Our council should be spending responsibly, ensuring that our tax dollars are well spent and not wasted away with, hundreds of millions of dollars of, wasted for different things, like we saw with the transit bus ticket scandal. Millions of dollars were wasted there. That's something that should not have happened. So I think that's definitely something that should happen as well. And I'd also like to streamline and simplify our Access to Information Act. One of the key things is being accountable and transparent to you, the voter. And I don't know if any of you have tried to get an Access to Information Act process recently, but it's quite competitive. So I want to streamline and simplify that process, so you know where your tax dollars are being spent. There's complete transparency and accountability in that fund, and I think it's a good plan to ensure that your tax dollars are well spent.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm a pretty easygoing guy. I mean, I think we need to start by having a cohesive council. We need to be able to work together, be able to voice our concerns, and be able to work for the common greater good of our residents of Greater Sudbury. Doesn't matter if I live in Ward 3, I should have the best interests out for any other ward in the city of Sudbury. I'll just touch quickly on the transit scandal. The transit scandal was, for everybody concerned, $800,000, not hundreds of millions of dollars. But it was a scandal nonetheless. I wouldn't want to take away any of the good work that our council has done this past term. There has been some good work. There has been a lot of conflict and friction, but we need to recognize the good work that we've done. Again, I think we need to compare with other cities and see, maybe they have experiences that they've done, and we can just learn from their past experiences and save money that way. There's no reason we can't reach out and call another city and ask what they've done, how it's happened, and if it was successful or not before we attempt that. Make sure staff are recognized for hard work and their great ideas. Everybody has a great idea, you just need to acknowledge it. So we need to say, listen guys, we're open, we want you to come to us, we want you to share your ideas, And we should be the driving force for instilling those ideas. We need to educate ourselves. Just because we're an elected official doesn't mean we know everything, and I don't claim to know everything. So I think that we need to be educated. We need to know what the budgets are. We need to know how the city operates. We need to make better educated decisions and not solely rely on the select few. We need to have things completed and answered on a timely fashion. And I think that we should review tenders to make sure that the city offers, the opening for businesses that are realistic. And they don't put in such strict guidelines that only allow a few businesses to monopolize on city work. And we can do small, minor things, but many of them that can make a major difference. Thanks.
One of the primary responsibilities of all elected officials is to maximize the value of our tax dollars for all taxpayers. Again, as a school board trustee, the annual budget process has always been a question of getting the biggest bang for our dollar. Making tough decisions on which new services are needed and which existing services should be eliminated is an ongoing process, which I like to practice. My strategy consists of 5 steps. It's a long process, but one that has to be undertaken every 3 to 4 years. Firstly, identify essential services, which we cannot do without. Road maintenance, snow removal, fire protection, police, and garbage services. Secondly, what are the discretionary services? They're nice to have, but maybe not essential. Thirdly, new services to introduce, possibly add to the public transportation service, and no doubt adding services for our aging population. Fourthly, service to reduce or cut, that will be determined during the review process. And finally, the streamlining of administrative structure and reduction of bureaucracy whenever possible. And that can be done through attrition. Thank you.
Jerry? Well, something to say on that subject. What we need,
I wouldn't have thought any less.
You wouldn't have thought any less of me. What we need to do is, more importantly, minimize the waste of the dollars. Our residents, our businesses, they all run on a budget. Why are our city managers not running on a budget? None of us can operate without a budget. That's what I'm looking at. Why are we not doing this? Now, council and the city managers, they're the ones that have to work to implement this. It's a must. It's paramount. I just don't know any operation they can run on no budget to run within it. And I'm going to have to say a word on the buses. I didn't plan on to. But the buses, we hear lots about the bus scandal, the bus this, the bus that. I want you to know a lot of the mechanics and the people that run the buses. There's a few bad apples maybe in there. And why I'm so fond of the buses is I was the co-founder of the Cruising for Food campaign. If all you folks saw all those buses running around picking up clothes and food for the food banks and so forth, the people that run the buses were paramount, second to none to do this. And I kind of hate it when they're tarnished with this couple of bad apples. Thank you.
And once again, you have a chance to say something about what the other people said or state your position. So who wants to go first? Want to go again? Okay. Jesse. This time we shall land here.
One of the things I'd like to bring up, a lot of my points again, we're talking, different things. In fact, I'm the only candidate here with a detailed platform. Mr. Belanger and Mr. Mopay beside me here do not even have a website. Mr. Mopay beside me here has a website, so I'll applaud him for that. But he only has 5 lines of text on it. I have a 25-point platform, which I intend to implement. And another thing I'd like to bring up as well, Mr. Belanger here talks about, just $900,000. To me, just $900,000 is unacceptable. $5 spent wastefully is too much. So, I don't think that You should just be talking as a chunk change.
So by any means, it's not chunk change. It is a downplay from hundreds of millions of dollars. That is true. One, everybody has great ideas here. And like there's not anybody with a bad idea. I'm not gonna cast doubt on somebody's idea. But I think this is a prime example of what's been going wrong with our council. And we need to change this, and we need to work together and find the greater good, not point the finger and, you know, I don't have a website. I think our town is, you know, has a lot of older people who don't really necessarily look on the website. So, I mean, I'm not gonna get into defending my platform, but it's very important that we all get out to you. And I hope you don't judge me on not having a website. Thanks.
All right, I guess we're gonna have to learn how to count. I have 8 lines on my website. And they're very well detailed. Slashing red tape and bureaucracy. Again, being the only man in business, we fight that every day. Many of you know that I collect antique cars and motorcycles. Improving road maintenance is very paramount in my life. Supporting and promoting community events. It's something that I volunteered for many years. I have, if anybody wants to see them, 20 names that I have donated as an auctioneer our time to raise funds. We have raised several $100,000 for charity. And I did say non-for-profit, I'm not paid for this. Again, it's something that I learned from my youth in the Legion here. You give back to your community. Now a big thing that the words is a little slick around here. I want to honorably represent our ward. People know me, we do that. Work to save the Levac Arena is a very strong thing. At the far end of our ward, it's important. Of course, increase accountability, we said all about that. The transparency, the duplication. Let's use some common sense and look at things using, again, common sense, practicality seems to be gone. Thank you. I see you very. Hey, thank you.
Matt, this is your question. This is just yours. No, just yours. All yours. And we'll let everybody beat you up on the defense, okay? What is the most important issue you see in your ward? What is the most important issue you see in your ward? Okay.
I could take punch to the big shoulders. But I don't think there's one issue that we can recognize on our board. It'd be beautiful if I could stand in front of you guys and say we have one issue. An issue in Chelmsford may not be an issue in Ottawa Falls, and Ottawa Falls may not have an issue that's an issue in Chelmsford respectively. I definitely think we need to look at our roads and infrastructure, do our best to do those improvements. I know we have a roadblock here, we have a major highway going to Timmins, lots of provincial highway, so there's not really necessarily much we can do about that, but I can tell you that I will help you guys, I will lobby the provincial government to make road improvements. City roads we can improve, so let's work on those. We need to better our transit system. Folks in Ottawa Falls need to call 90 minutes ahead to get a ride to Chelmsford. They don't have a bus shelter that they can sit outside and they have to sit on the curb. I really don't think that's appropriate for somebody that has to sit outside in the rain and wait for public transit to get to Sudbury. We need to look at our medical accessibility. How easy is it for our seniors to get medical help when they need it? There's nothing in Chelmsford. We need really to put that on the forefront so that we can get something here. And I know I've seen somebody say it's coming. It is coming, and I will talk about that later on. So, and there is a large disconnect between our ward and the city. Okay, so it's difficult. We're facing a very difficult time. This council term, I'm sure, is going to be very difficult on me. I'll have more gray hair than I do now. But I'm willing to take on the challenge. So to identify one issue, I think is impossible. I can identify a laundry list, and I'm sure a lot of people can too, right? But as a resident of Chelmsford, I don't experience the difficulties that they face in Onaping Falls, in Dowling, in Levack. But I can tell you that living on Shirley Street, I face a couple of difficulties. There's potholes, there's certain things. So that's why I want to have town hall meetings when I'm elected.
Thank you.
That's a tough question for me to answer. My plan is to talk to as many people as I can, door to door, by phone, at public venues, to find out what their most important issues are. But from discussions I've had so far, the residents of Onaping Falls, Dowling, Levack and Dowling, have identified keeping their recreation facilities open as a top priority. The bus transportation, as Matt mentioned, and also maintenance as top priorities. As for Chelmsford, access to health services and road maintenance are important to them. Good news is that the City of Lake Family Health Team and as well as an urgent care clinic have been approved for the Chelmsford area. In general, the residents of Ward 3 have expressed a sense of disattachment from Greater Sudbury. We have to rebuild that confidence and pride within our community. Thank you.
Jerry.
Well, I have been knocking on doors. I don't need a form to see them later. The most reoccurring issues that are coming is this road maintenance. Always road maintenance. The folks just road maintenance. It seems to be lacking. Last year they dug up the ice and left all these seniors with big ice blocks, and it's always it's road maintenance. The municipal dumps, the hours and the tipping fees, that comes right up there. Good solid representation. Good people of Ward 3 have basically all said this. They've had enough of folks coming from somewhere talking down to us, making us run in circles. They just had enough of that. The fact the city doesn't seem to realize that we're here, as some of the fellows mentioned. God, you should see Levack and Onaping. It's worse than here as to feeling alienated. This is what got me involved in this campaign. Many of the folks said, Jerry, you're well known in the city. Again, I've worked in events my whole life, etc. They said, Jesus, become our counselor and let them know we're here. And that's kind of what got me going on this. Many of our services are just not reaching Ward 3. We're paying for the taxes, but the services don't seem to get out here. And that's how people feel all about it. The transit, not the bark on the transit. I've seen some folks, like say, sitting on the sidewalk in Levack, sitting on the sidewalk in Chelmsford. They're not young chickens anymore, some of the folks. And it's actually terrible. We sat there the other day with an older gentleman, same thing, and he was cold, and there's the flag. And again, the tipping fees have got to go at the dump. That's what the folks tell me. Thank you.
Jesse.
So basically, as a lot of the other candidates have mentioned, there's a wide range of issues. Obviously, I'm not going to sit here and say how many people want to see change with the roads. Basically, it has to be changed. What I basically want to set up is a public forum for people, to go in either by phone or online, submit complaints about their roads. If a road has a lot of potholes, there's no reason that a road in Sudbury, which has perhaps less potholes, shouldn't get the same sort of, shouldn't get paid for other roads that aren't as bad. So basically, and then I want future projects to be prioritized accordingly to those complaints. So if a road gets 100 complaints, that's something that, should catch City Council's attention, and some sort of action should be done on it. Another issue that's pretty big is transit. I've been going door to door, been talking with a lot of voters, and they're saying, especially Dowling, Onaping, Levack, those areas, they don't even get bus service out here. It's a shuttle service. So basically, I want to bring in frequent, more reliable service. I want to improve Sunday bus service. Often you're waiting upwards of 2 hours to get a bus. It's simply unacceptable. I think it's something that definitely needs to change, and hopefully it's something that we can change come October. Thank you very much.
And once again, Jill, anybody want to comment?
So I think it's important, I'm gonna harp on that transit part again. It's important that we recognize there's not only problems in downtown and not for transit. I know I have some family that stay at St. Gabrielle's Village, and we tried to get the transit bus to loop into the parking lot there so that they could get transit there instead of having to take a wheelchair down to the Bonaventure Mall. To make things much easier, right? I was told, some other people were told there was hundreds of thousands of dollars cost per year. I don't know how it could be so expensive from going from the Bonaventure Mall to St. Gabrielle's Villa right beside. But, you know, it's crucial that we need to make it accessible to our seniors. And, I mean, it's important to have a good bus schedule, but I don't think it's important to have an empty bus for one person who waits for an hour or two. You know, to have a routine bus schedule every 2 hours might be overzealous. So, we need to caution, we need to make sure we look at the situation and evaluate it properly so we can instill a proper plan and not just jump in and say we'll fix it.
Well, while we're on the subject of transportation, I don't know if you guys remember me, but as a school board trustee again, I've fought for years and years and years to make sure that the small junior and kindergarten children get picked up at their houses. It was probably a 10-year battle, and finally it was passed a few years ago, and now the children are being picked up, maybe not at their door, but within visual sight of the home where the children reside. So if you guys, you know, we've put in a lot of strategies to improve transportation, and I can offer my experience and help and making it better, because it's a problem everywhere, not just in Ward 3, but it's a problem in Greater Sudbury.
That's it. Well, sir, this one's for you. Given the proposed budget of a 4.9% increase in taxes for the coming year, what actions would you suggest be taken? So given the proposed budget of a 4.9% increase in taxes for the coming year, what actions would you suggest be taken? Now sit.
I think we're forgetting it, that, you know, that is the first draft of the budget of 4.9. It's never been 4.9, it probably won't be, but that's the way the media pictured it. First of all, if I'm elected, I will tell you that I will never endorse 0% tax increase. I will not lie to you. Voters are well informed, and if you know, they're just trying to, you know, if I propose a zero tax increase, it's only because somebody's trying to get your vote. That's not the way I do things. That said, 4.9% tax increase is unacceptable. The average increase in the last few years has been 2.7 to 2.9%, which is slightly higher than the rate of inflation. To maintain the same level, the tax rate should be equal to at least the inflation rate. If council approves a lower inflation tax increase, it's necessary to reduce services which no one wants to. Taxation is tricky. If the taxation rate is too high, it's difficult to attract new development. If the taxation is too low, you can't provide the services which will attract new workers and families to the Sudbury area. Thank you.
Jerry.
On the subject of taxes, I will always vote to slow the train down on tax hikes. Practical common sense approach to revenue received from the taxpayer has to be enough. We talked about residents a while ago and businesses that all run on a budget. The city must follow suit. They gotta be drilled into their heads. You gotta follow suit. Prior to amalgamation, that word again, the surrounding communities pretty much all ran on a break-even or profit. It shows that it's possible. You know, if at this current rate, what we're gonna start doing is our seniors will not be able to afford to live here anymore. The taxes, the user fees, we're gonna start, I've seen this in other communities where the folks just can't live there anymore. It has to be a strong, practical voice is needed at the city hall to push for fiscal responsibility. Thank you.
Jesse?
So basically, you know, they're talking that there's a forecasted 4.9% tax increase next year. It could be higher, it could be lower, probably going to be a little bit lower, but it doesn't mean that it's not high. Basically, what I'd like to do is I'd like to initiate a mandatory review every 4 years of all city programs, services, and departments to make sure that we're utilizing our tax dollars responsibly. Make sure that those tax dollars are spent in a manner that they should be. If we can find some savings in these mandatory reviews every 4 years, what I'd like to do is I'd like to take those savings directly and pass them directly on to voters in the form of lower property tax increases. So, I'm not saying that, we can cut property tax increases. I think it's unsustainable. But what I'd like to see is perhaps use those savings to minimize